Hello, everyone. I'm Jean-Claude at BeyondMystic, and welcome to tonight's edition of Manifest Destiny. With me, of course, is the lovely MEG MOONBEAM. You can find her at MAISONJupiter.com on the web and also on their YouTube channel here at Maison Jupiter. Meg, welcome back to the show. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing today?
Okay, I'm hanging in there. Third video of the day. I'm losing my voice still. I'm trying to recuperate between all of these amazing shows. There's so much content and there's so many events going on right now. It's absolutely crazy. I feel that I'm not the only one being sick all of a sudden. I'm hearing that from all of our friends, and I got a bunch of emails today too saying, JC, just me too at the same time as you. What the hell is going on? Meg, what's going on? Why is everybody sick?
Oh my goodness. Well, I feel like, we're in the last degrees of Pluto and Saturn right now. And Pluto is the great cleanser, detoxifier planet in Capricorn that we've been all talking a lot about, our structures, our governments, the darkness on the planet. There is so much, like you said, happening right now and being cleansed that even if we're not a part of those, bad guy systems, we're feeling the effects of all of that getting cleansed out. At the same time as we're all about to step into the age of Aquarius. I mean, there's just so much going on. It's really wild.
Absolutely. Do you want to take a moment and share with the audience members your reaction to this part of the show here for the Divine Feminine Oracle show on Valentine's Day? It was emotional. I think for everyone in the chat, for myself, for sure, I'll speak for myself. Share your experience about this episode with the audience here today.
Yeah, well, you definitely surprised me. I had no idea that you were going to come on, and it felt emotional to me because I am really enjoying doing the show with Julie and Sophie. I know that you were doing it with them, but I love that feminine energy. And when, as women, we're in that feminine energy, that sisterhood together, it's so healing and it's so positive. And then for you to come on, which I've been calling you the Divine Masculine Oracle, when we have you coming on, it's also so healing and positive to be with conscious, like-minded, soul family, and just the lovely words that you shared. And then we all started crying. It was really amazing. So if you guys haven't seen it, definitely check it out.
Go check it out. Yes, we all had tears in our eyes, and we were holding back the emotional wreck that we were all together during this episode. It was kind of funny. Janine sent me a text message like at midnight that night. She says, JC, were you drinking? I'm like, no, I never drink when I do shows. I truly meant it, and I was emotional. And I don't know, something was behind in my head all day that I had to do something that night. I didn't know what it was. And then when I saw you, we were driving back home and I saw that you guys were alive. I'm like, oh, I'm just going to pop by and say hello. I had no idea where all that was going to go. But I'm glad I did. And a few people in the chat and the emails afterwards, they all told me, wow, that was so authentic. And I'm like, no, you're right. And, Valentine doesn't have to be the commercialized version that it is, right? We can reappropriate each day in our lives, especially now in this crazy spiritual warfare we find ourselves in, to really let people know around us what they mean to us and how they've affected us, and to strengthening those bonds between those people that are left in our community standing by our side. Because for a lot of people who are on that road to self-mastery, they've discovered that sometimes it's a very, very lonely road. Now, what's interesting is that people are starting to come back to us now. We were walking away from the crowd for a number of years here, going through this awakening process. But now it appears that a bunch of normies are slowly making their way back to us. Let's talk about that a little bit here, Meg, tonight. This idea of going on this path and the realization that part of this path you have to do alone, and it's not easy. What's your experience with that?
Yeah, I have definitely learned, especially from the past few years, that we wake up alone. We wake up when our soul, our consciousness is ready to wake up in our human, existence, the 3D part of ourselves. We cannot really wake people up or force people, shake them. We have to lead by example. I don't know if that was Gandhi or whoever is the, famous person that has that quote, like, be the change you want to be. It can be corny, but it is definitely true.
I thought it was Luke Radowski.
Was it?
No, he's probably taking it from somebody else, but he's wearechange.org, and I love Luke. I'm
Right.
not making fun of him.
Oh, yeah.
Keep going.
But yeah, it's really about, holding space for ourselves, letting ourselves rise and going through that process, which can be lonely because when you wake up and you step into what I like to say, the reality of what's going on, right? You're going to go through the grief, you're going to go through the anger, you're going to go through all of those stages of realizing what's going on, where the bubble gets broken. And our brothers and sisters have to go through that too. They have to go through that on their journey. And everyone at the soul level right now, I think there's something about this month, JC, that I really feel like coming up to Pluto going into Aquarius at the end of March, the timelines are closing. The doors are closing, if you will, to who is coming on to the new Earth timeline, who is staying on the old Earth timeline. And we can hold space for those around us. I've been really feeling that lately, but we got to take care of ourselves most of all, which isn't a selfish thing because we do affect the collective when we're taking care of ourselves and being that change in the world.
A lot of people are saying in the chat, yeah, we're very emotional in the last couple of days. Is there something else also in the alignment, in the astrological alignments that would suggest that maybe our Piscean energy is being brought to fore as we did maybe last night during this Valentine show or on the Tuesday night? I apologize. What do you see in the alignments that could explain why a lot of people are saying, yeah, like Stella here, she's saying, yeah, me too, I'm super emotional.
Yeah, I've been feeling that too. Definitely the Venus-Neptune conjunction that we've been having this week in Pisces. That's like, one of the water signs, one of the most emotional signs. But I also feel like, and some astrologers may disagree with me on this, but I do feel like the Sun conjunct Saturn that we're actually having right now can be emotional too, because it's a reality check. The Sun is in the exact same place from our Earth's perspective as Saturn, and Saturn is reality. This is the reality of what's going on. And like, it's random, but today I was buying like survival food and those practical things that we may need during these times. And I was feeling the emotions around that, like the emotions around, the Pisces side of, well, I could just, wait around and maybe I don't need this stuff and maybe just being positive, the spiritual bypassing. But then I could feel like the emotions of the practicality of, no, this is crazy stuff going on and there's nothing wrong with just having that stuff.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. So there's all kinds of emotions going on. The emotions of us grieving the world that is no longer what it is. The emotions of, the relationships in our lives and those people that we love that are still maybe not ready to, as I like to say, rise, wake up. That's quite emotional. And I've been noticing that in my consultations a lot lately. Most of us, like-minded, light workers, star seeds, whatever you want to call us, most of us have been put in families where most of them are not awake yet. Very few of us are in family situations, even friend situations where everybody's on the same page, right? And I think that that's been for a reason for us to like wake up those ancestral lines, right? Help those ancestral lines rise. So it's all kinds of different emotions right now, for sure.
There's a lot. And guys, go check out the last Astro Decode Julie did yesterday with Meg. It was the Saturn return. And the next one that's coming up, I believe the next one is March 15th.
March 15th, yeah.
Yep. Let me see if I can bring up the poster for that one, guys. I'm not sure it's on Julie's board yet, but this is the one you'll be looking for. We'll be doing the April/May eclipse season. And of course, there's going to be a lot of emotions attached to these eclipses as usual. You just mentioned something about getting some prepper food and all that. I wanted to ask you this because I remember watching a video, Teal Swan. She was talking about also prepping at some point, and the community gave her a lot of flack. They're like, you're manifesting reality by prepping. You're going to be in a horrible situation, blah, blah, blah. And she did this amazing 1-hour video to explain that, oh, no. Much to the contrary. It's like wearing your seatbelt or preparing. You're actually putting yourself in a different frequency than when you're not prepared. When you're not prepared, you're actually manifesting universe to give you a lesson. Or worse to that effect, you can go check her video on that. What's your take on that, on prepping how that manifests your reality. A lot of people are saying if you talk that talk, you're going to manifest that reality for yourself. Where's that fine line here to understand for the audience members?
You know, I always say to friends, clients, whoever, always do what resonates for you and what feels right for you. Don't just do something because, you know, you're hearing other people say it and maybe it freaks you out. Do what feels right for you. What feels right for me is, you know, having been someone like you, JC, that's been aware of what's going on in the world, definitely the past 15 years, pretty heavily, and seeing things play out, you know, thing by thing, event happening, as we've heard from the great pioneers in our field of, I think David Icke is a great pioneer, Alex Jones is a great pioneer, those people who have predicted everything that has happened so far.
Yeah.
You know, and when you've been aware of that and you're watching it all play out, it's, from my point of view, not negative to be prepared for anything that can possibly happen at these times. And I think it's empowering to actually be prepared. Because the system that is falling with Pluto in Capricorn at the last degree, I've been really feeling this, and this is the good time for me to bring it up. I wanted to bring it up on the show, is I'm really feeling the energy of the desperation of the bad guys, the total desperation. They are not in a powerful position right now. They are not in a strong position. It may seem that way because they're holding the cards for the banks at the moment and the government for the moment and all the things that we're going to build the new systems for. But they're actually in a totally weak spot because everything they've tried to throw at us has ended up working in reverse and waking more people up, you know? So whether that's cell phones or the pandemic or the internet, like it all reversed and backfired on them. So I'm in a place also as an astrologer, you know, we've got a transit happening now, which is Uranus, the planet Uranus in Taurus. And we've had that for, I think, since 2018 or 2019, if I can remember correctly. And we're going to have that till, I think, 2026, somewhere around that. Uranus is the ruler of Aquarius, and it's the most unpredictable planet. It rules shocks, unpredictability. It's not grounded in the most grounded sign, Taurus. Our food supply, our money, our security, the land, you know, who owns the land. So this is the absolute most, I think, unstable times of our lives. That's the good news, is when I think we get past the 2020s, 2026, 2027 in particular, we're out of that transit. But just knowing that, it's like we're kind of in a space with Uranus and Taurus where a lot of things could possibly happen. A lot of different things, whether that's food shortages or the power going out. And I don't want to freak you guys out, but these are things that are those possible cards that the bad guys can play because they're in a complete, total desperation mode. And they feed off of our energy. They feed off of our fear. So if we do have extra food, you know, or we do have extra whatever it is you feel to have, then when those situations happen, which I don't think would last for a long time, because Uranus is not things lasting for a long time. It would be like a, you know, a 1 week or a 2 week power outage or food shortage of some sort. Then you're prepared for that. Right. So that's kind of how I feel about it. How do you feel about it?
Oh, I feel the same way. I've been prepping for a long time since I was a kid. I was a Boy Scout, and that was our motto: be prepared. So to me, this is absolutely normal. And I remember, like, I was a prepper in the 90s, and you know, people were not making fun of them as much as they did maybe in 2010. Like that's when like social media started ridiculizing and marginalizing the preppers because of the advent of 2012. So we had all those TV shows laughing at the preppers. But I remember in 2001 we had an ice storm here in Ottawa, and we were 47 days without power in my house. And for the first two weeks of that, we had down power lines on our street, and I couldn't get out of my house. Like we didn't know if those power lines were active or not. Like we didn't even want to walk or drive across them until the hydro crews had came. So we had to make our own, and we were like having a great old time, like nothing was happening. Yet our neighbors were calling the military to come and give them food and stuff like that, right? So being prepared makes a lot of sense. Lorianne says, yeah, it's time for being intuitive pioneers. That's true. And somebody else was saying, hey, I'm just making canned food. I'll have it whenever. Like it's always a good idea.
Exactly. Yeah. And I see as well, Raymond _, in the chat says, by being prepared, we take their power away from them.
I think that's also somewhat what Teal Swan was alluding to. I put up the video a second ago. Let me see if I can find it again here. Hold on. Where did it go? I have too many things on my slide deck open today. There's so many news going on. But this was the video she was talking about. This is from her Facebook post in 2020. So go check it out. It makes a lot of sense, even more today. And going back to what you said also about kind of mourning the past, or the fact that we're not going back to any type of normal ever again. This was part of the theme here today in the Rumble show, and I had subtitled that "Wartime." We are indeed at war. We're being under attack. You talked about the astrology that puts in peril our food supply, our infrastructure. We're seeing that now with all the rail derailments, with the food processing plants being sabotaged. Possibly chemicals in our air and in our water right now. This debate, what's going on right now. So it's funny because we said earlier, we're all emotional. There's reasons for us personally to be emotional. But like you said, also, the bad guys are also very emotional right now in the sense that things are not going their way. And perhaps the anxiety that we are feeling personally is not our anxiety, but in fact, their anxiety, and how things are not going their way, and they're petrified of all of us waking up. Speak to that a little bit now, because I think for a lot of audience members, and we had a lot of flack in this show, by the way, some people were reacting negatively to the content. And I think because it was painting a harsh reality, and of course we need to have adult conversations if we're going to get ourselves out of these problems. But for some people, maybe they were still wearing the rose-colored glasses here, and they're waking up, so they have that process to go through. But for some of us who are more sensitive, we might be feeling anxiety, but not knowing that it's not necessarily our anxiety. Speak to that, and maybe help people navigate, maybe discerning where that anxiety is coming from, and how to navigate all of those energies to stay focused here on the bigger picture. Go ahead.
Yeah, definitely. I think that, and I'm going to get really woo-woo here, but, I think most of us, a part of this community, are very old souls. And, there's this, belief that with star seeds in the spiritual community, that we've had so many lives on other planets and maybe we haven't been here a lot. I don't subscribe to that. I think that if you are here now as a light worker, starseed, whatever you want to call yourself, you are deeply tied to this planet, the evolution of this planet, the history of this planet. And that also goes with those beings that have been here for a very, very long time, that have been playing out, this game of control and free will, right? And I think that we are connected to them. They are teachers to us, and we are teachers to them. And totally, I think that they can feel our energy. They maybe feel the anxiety when we start to get really empowered, and we can feel their anxiety as well, for sure, because we are actually connected to them. We like to think like, oh, they're just reptiles or whatever they are. We're not connected to them. They come from somewhere really far away and they're just going to go away. Actually, we are connected to them on the soul level, in the sense that they are teachers to us on our soul journey. And we are teaching them things as well about how it's not okay to control a whole planet for thousands of years, And I think that as old souls that we have had lifetimes where we were the controllers and we were the abusers. And I think that for us to be in the high vibrational place that we are in as light workers, we've gone through those incarnations. So these beings that are playing this out right now on this planet are doing things that maybe we've been down that road a long time ago. Does that make sense?
No, for sure. And for some of the audience members listening to us, they're going to say, well, what do you mean by these beings? Are they ETs, traditionally speaking, in the New Age world that we often have them being described? Or are they more from the old world where people would call them angels and demons and Jesus and God and the whole religious nomenclature? Via De La Rosa says, hey, Jean-Claude and Janine never Do they mention Jesus? Well, there you go. I'm talking about Jesus right now. How do you differentiate yourself? And of course, this is your personal opinion, and I welcome everybody's opinion. This is hopefully trying to understand stuff. How do you discern today the difference between some of the older worlds, our ancestors, and how they viewed some of the paranormal activities around them, how they viewed their religion and their position within that religion in the context of where we're at today with science, with the woo-woo, as you've just described. At the end of the day, are we not all chasing and try to understand the same thing, that we're part of this global consciousness and we are a fractal of God, essentially speaking? What is your take on all of that, Meg?
Yeah, definitely. I think that, you know, when we get into something called the greater ages, the great ages in astrology, and by the way, hi, Julie. I see Julie in the chat there. You know, we've got this thing called great ages. And next time we do this show, I'll send you a picture that we can put up to show the graph of that, where we go through these cycles. And right now we've been in the age of Pisces, 2000-year cycle, and we're about to step into an age of Aquarius. And actually the age of Pisces is a part of a 6,000-year cycle where we've been in actually what we would call like a dark age, a great dark age. And what we're stepping into now with the age of Aquarius is a great light age of 6,000 years. And I don't have all the answers, but I personally feel in my heart that when we're in these dark ages, these beings, such as the reptilians or the grays or these demonic entities, these type of things, are able to kind of come in and bring the balance of more duality to teach lessons to the humans incarnated at this time about darkness and hardship and challenge. Whereas when we're in these light ages on the planet, these great times, you know, like Atlantis and Lemuria and those kind of times, there's not as many of those darker entities and energies there because it's like a light age. It's like a highly evolved time. So I think that the great ages is a big part to do with that. And yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. And you were supposed to give me that graphic last time we spoke. So
Right,
thank you
yeah,
for
I'll have
reminding me.
yeah.
We'll bring it back on the next show because that also
Yeah.
ties into some of the yugas and how we have this this trajectory around the galactic central sun where we go from basically being asleep, the
Yeah.
dark ages, to being awake and going to closer and closer to our higher selves. I think it warrants a good episode. But speaking of having the aha or come to Jesus moment, for the questioner, a lot of people are on the verge now of realizing that they're at war. Now, for some people in the audience members, they'll say, okay, it's a spiritual war, which I agree to some extent. It starts at the spiritual level or energetic level, and then it manifests here into physicality. But what Clefai was saying in one of his reports from yesterday, I believe it was February 15, is that what he's seeing in the Webber data is that sometime in mid-March, and maybe at the outset, the end of March, a big portion of the population will come to that aha moment that we are in fact at war. And that changes the whole scenario, because for you and I, and for most people watching the show here, they're long in the tooth, they're tired of watching the show, and they're tired of being around the sleepers who don't recognize yet that they're at war. But once they do, if in fact that timeline makes sense, the Clefai out, how does that change our trajectory once we're all in the same boat, rowing in the same direction, as opposed to all the tactics of division that we've suffered through here in the last number of years to prevent us from opening our eyes to those facts?
Yeah. I think that once the greater mass of people realizes that we're actually in a war right now, and I think we've been in this war for a very long time, but the really nitty gritty of it, I would say since 2020 for sure, like a psychological war. You know, Tanya Dahl in the chat says consciousness war for sure, right?
Yeah.
Once the greater mass is aware of that, they're going to go through the stage of anger, grief, you know, sadness, even depression, anxiety, all those stages of grief. And then they're going to, like most of us, get empowered to take the power back. And once the greater mass does that, these bad guys, right, dark forces are literally going to starve of energy, and they will not be able to be here anymore.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of time, I think.
Just a matter.
Yeah. I don't see there's any way that we're not stepping into the light age that is happening. It's just, okay, when exactly is it going to happen? I think it is happening this year. And yeah, it makes sense with Cliff's WebBot data.
And to some extent, we're already there. And that's why, like, a lot of people were asking us, "Oh, when's going to be the EBS so that we know all this stuff?" I'm like, you already know all this stuff. It's already here. It's already there. It's just because it's been masked away from you and obfuscated from you. But again, so if we're already there, how quickly do you think human society can change? Like when I said, when we're rowing in the same direction here, and Julie's making a good point here. I'll come back to the rowing in the same direction, but she's saying we have to watch out for these external savior myths, whether those are the ETs or the gods or whatever, put the nomenclature you want. At the end of the day, I love that video that Doreen Dautin put out a couple of weeks ago. You and I had talked about it, where she says for every 1,000 people who strike at the branches of the tree of evil, only 1 out of 1,000 actually goes to the root. And what she meant by the root was us personally. We are responsible for the reflection outside. We are a fractal of God that has divided in order to have these experiences here, to learn and to grow into consciousness. How close are we to that? Like, how does that change once we're all rowing in the same direction, Meg? Do you see years and years of rebuilding? Do you see like a huge boom of consciousness that leads to a boom of technology? Like, how do you see that transpiring?
There's a lot of different thoughts on that, but I think things are going to happen very quickly, very, very quickly. And there was an Indigenous Elder, I'm forgetting her name right now, but I'll send it to you and maybe we can share it the next show we do, Manifest Destiny show, because it was a lovely little video from this Indigenous Elder. And she was explaining how she's seen in visions that right now it seems like we're moving down. It seems like we're going to the end of the world. But she says she feels like there will be a point where it's going to actually be like a springboard where we're going down. And with that momentum of going down, we suddenly go back up. And when she said that, I got chills like all over my whole body. And I was like, I've never heard someone explain it like that before, but that's actually a really cool way that resonates with me, that, yeah, we're kind of going into this place where we're all prepping. We're all like bracing for something crazy to happen. It's like, okay, so financial crisis, all this stuff. But once we're in that place where the mass is on the same page, it is like a springboard where we come into the same place. These darker energies don't get fed anymore. And things are going to move really, really fast because we're all on the same page of truth and awareness of what's going on. And I think that it will be years and years of rebuilding certain systems, but coming out of the intensity of the time that we're in now, I don't see that taking years and years and decades and decades. Kind of like, it makes me think about, World War II, for example. Like from one day it went from, okay, we're in a war and this is crazy and there's bombs going off, to all of a sudden the war's over and then we're rebuilding and there's this celebration. It kind of feels like that to me, that it's kind of like it has to be darkest before the dawn. I really believe that. And there's some things that we're going to have to be mentally prepared for, especially over the course of the next year, with Pluto in the last degree of Capricorn, with that total desperation of the dark side. And what cards are they going to play, right? Because we're still in Pluto and Capricorn. So they still have a little bit of, even though they're being cleansed out of their power, it's still Pluto is in Capricorn.
Yeah, and even though they're cornered, they still have some wiggle room and they still have their hands on some of the levers of power. That's for sure. Oh, in your show last night, I believe it was in the show last night, I watched it, or it could have been in your Tuesday show, you mentioned that growth comes out of friction, that you need to have friction in order to get to the growth. I believe it's in this Astro Decode show.
Yes.
A lot of people look at the frictions. Well, first of all, there's the spiritual bypassing where everybody's saying, "Oh, it's all love and light. I don't want to I don't want to manifest any friction in my life, and everything's going to be okay, and I'm going to manifest all of this abundance by not having strife or any friction in my life." To some extent, yes, being in alignment or being in aster brings your ultimate soul destiny into view and your mission into view. Whereas when you're in this aster or not aligned with your star or with your higher self, that's when problems arise, or when you stray off your path of your soul mission. Now, that being said, there is such a thing between universe is doing this to me versus universe is doing this for me at my best. Explain that to the audience members.
Exactly. When you're saying that, it makes me think in particular about the situation of Canada right now. Both of us are Canadians. And, you know, I don't know about you, but me growing up, like, I thought Canada was the best country in the world. I thought Canada was one of the truly freest countries in the world. And I thought nothing bad or evil could ever happen in Canada. Yeah. And so naive. That was so naive of me and so many of us Canadians that have never gone through a hardship. Now, our Indigenous brothers and sisters, that's a whole other story, because they have definitely had hardships in their life and with their ancestors. But for a lot of us that are, you know, the new generation of Canadians, we haven't been through a war. We haven't been through famine. We haven't been through communism or a dictatorship until now. And Justin Castro, as much as he triggers me, he is one of, I think, our greatest teachers to the world and Canadians, because if it wasn't for him and that villain role that he's played, which is a total Saturn challenge, like total challenge. So many people despise him. If it wasn't for that, we wouldn't have woken up. And we not only would we not have woken up, but when we get to the place in the coming years where we start to rebuild the structures of a more free world, and we start to teach the children, right? We start to talk to the children about freedom. It's not coming from a place of, you know, we have to respect freedom because our great grandfathers in the wars fought for that. It's like, I lived through that. We lived through that. And I can tell you the stories firsthand about how you have to stand for freedom, and we have to have a society based on freedom. Does that make sense? It's not coming from the concepts, it's coming from the actual experience, right?
Yeah. Okay, I gotta play you this clip. I don't know if you saw it, but this is a hot mic moment between Grégoire and Trudeau.
I haven't seen that.
I think it has to be just before he's prime minister. So it could have been when he was first running in Quebec as an MP. I don't have the date stamp on this, but somebody brought it to my radar the other day.
Oh, I did see that. Oh my God.
Okay, so let's play it for the audience members here, because we were just talking about how Justin is playing this role. And he says in this clip, I was built to do this, or I was born to do this. And his wife or girlfriend at the time was like, yeah, but be humble. So I'm just going to play the clip and then we can comment. Okay, here it goes.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's hard to listen there because there's people.
Oh my God. Yeah.
In the background. So let me read that again. So Trudeau says, I was put on this planet to do this. And he says, I fight and I win. He says, that's what I'm good at. And he says, but it's true, honey, in French. Mais c'est vrai, chérie. And then she says, yeah, you fight from a good place, but be humble. Okay.
Yeah.
So, I think we need more of Madame Grégoire's influence here. I think her influence has disappeared over the last number of years.
I never see her anywhere, a part of anything.
I think the last time I saw her was just before COVID. They were both at a barbecue event, and it appeared that they were both wearing ankle bracelets. I remember doing a video on this.
Wow.
Anyways, crazy times indeed. Yeah, Raymond says, wife or handler? I don't think she's his handler. I don't think she's anywhere close to being in the vicinity of Trudeau anymore. But this idea, when you look at this young Trudeau, he seems to know that he's born for something here. Here he's talking about fighting and winning, presumably with altruistic motives, meaning that he's fighting for his people. Now, he might not have known that that was not his destiny. As you're describing here, he has a very different role, and that's to play the antagonizer. It's like what you said there. Kind of reminded me of when we watched Dallas as kids. Everybody loved to hate J.R. Dallas, or what's his name? You guys know who I mean. JR, John Ross. Anyways, J.R. Ewing was the guy. Sorry. And so we all hated this villain character, but we loved to hate him, right? Because he was so good at being evil. And he taught us a lot about how sneaky these people were and how we needed to watch for them and stand on guard for our constitutional rights and all that. So that leads into the question. Do you think Trudeau at that time knew that he seemed to know that he had a role, but was it a different role? Or is he just being an actor here, as we know that he's very good at doing also? What's your take at this particular clip?
So when I see that clip, I haven't seen a ton of clips of Trudeau, I like to call him Castro, at around that age, right? So I find it really interesting to see him pre-prime minister role, what the energy is. Mm-hmm. And when I saw that clip, I felt, okay, he's completely mind controlled. This is someone who is just the energy of him in that clip to me is like he's been mind controlled since birth. Mm-hmm. He's not thinking straight. He is not acting from a place of Justin. He's acting from a place of mind control that he's been under, for sure.
Okay.
Which is hard to look at. I find it hard to look at.
Yeah. And perhaps you and I can revisit this on the Rumble channel, because we can bring a lot in terms of SRA and some other techniques there, and K Ultra and all that into play here. And it seems to suggest that perhaps you're right. And the whole connection, as you're mentioning here, with the Castro family, the predilections of his father, predilections of his mother, they very much seem to be involved in a lot of this background activities that for some people here they would recognize as problematic, or at least very conducive to fracturing of the mind and programming people, or programming alternates or alters. Yeah, okay. I think that's far enough down that road. But I just thought that was funny. And I'm like, where's Kigwal now? Man, we need her. What's coming up tomorrow? The report on the Freedom Convoy, on whether or not it was
that's really big news.
So presumably now what we were told is that the Prime Minister's office have had this report now for 2 weeks prior to it being released for the general public. Now yesterday the RCMP chief just resigned, Lucky. So I'm wondering how many heads are going to be rolling here. It appears that they're setting up for a weird scapegoat situation here. Watch your language here. And I know it doesn't really have to do with manifest destiny, but in a sense it does, because we're watching this show, and as we're understanding how this show is being played and perhaps the lessons that they're teaching us, we can then glean from that how we are so very much responsible for manifesting our own destiny, but also collectively bringing that information together, so that information field together, so that we're all rowing in the same direction. So it is part of the experience here to go through this movie, as it were. So what are your thoughts on this setting up of a scapegoat maybe for tomorrow?
I think tomorrow is going to be super interesting with the outcome of the Emergencies Act, because it's the RCMP commissioner. Is that the right term? RCMP commissioner has stepped down. I believe a part of the Emergencies Act also stepped down. Like when I was looking online today, all these different people in Canadian politics and structures have stepped down. We've also had Mayor John Tory of Toronto step down last week. And there's someone else, I'm forgetting the name.
Hold on. I'm not sure Tory stepped down. The last article I read yesterday is that he was still hanging on. And in fact, he hadn't actually resigned from his mayoral position. And he was probably just running surveys on whether or not he can cling to power a little bit longer.
Oh, wow.
I'll check on that as you continue your train of
Okay.
thought here. But here's, yes,
Interesting.
RCMP Commissioner Brenda Lucky here stepping down. Go ahead, keep going.
Interesting. Yeah, this to me, there's something going on. This doesn't look good in terms of on their side. And oh yeah, the other thing was, who was it? The CSIS director, I think that's the right organization, came out today and said that the Emergencies Act shouldn't have been invoked. So that's come out today. This RCMP commissioner has resigned today. It's looking like we're going to have some really big news tomorrow, I think. And, you know, the bad guys need a reason for Trudeau to leave now, for Castro to leave, because he is so unliked. He's not doing a very good job anymore on their part, because
he's doing a good job of not being liked. Yes,
he's doing a good job of not being liked. Yeah. So this would be a really good, you know, excuse for him to step down and step aside, right? And maybe we could get more into that on Rumble, because there's a lot of things I probably can't say on here. But yeah, I feel like we might have a big victory tomorrow, actually. I think there could be some really good news coming in tomorrow in regards to that.
Well, I'll keep my fingers crossed. And in politics, they say I'll be cautiously optimistic.
Yeah.
try to manifest that for sure. So the latest news again here. So just to be clear, he has not yet resigned, but apparently earlier today, he's announced that he will, in fact, resign now this Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern. So some of the media outlets were talking about, okay, what happens when he resigns? And they're laying out a set of procedures here and who perhaps might run and what it means for Toronto politics. But yeah, just in the last couple of days too, there were questions as to whether or not he was still going to try to cling to power. And who knows, things might change from here to tomorrow in politics. 24 hours is a very, very, very long time. I know. Okay. I didn't know we were going to do a political show, but I love it. I love that. I love that both of us are Canadians and have this perspective, and we can bring that to the audience members, because whether this is a setup, as you say here, for eventually maybe Trudeau leaving, we saw that in New Zealand too. And a lot of people said, oh, after New Zealand probably comes Canada. They're all part of the Five Eyes. And this is a systemic takedown. And if you look at some of the boards that we can't mention here, a lot of them had already predicted the removal of many of these people with those graphics with those X's on them.
Right.
So perhaps Trudeau is next there. I wanted to get your feel on this, maybe also from the astrological alignment standpoint, but also you personally as a Canadian. There is a WebBot prediction that at some point here, we're going to go through what Cliff High called Constitution of Canada. And so either that has something to do with the Queen Lizard passing and the Commonwealth disintegrating. We saw the new silver coins from Britain the other day, and King Charlie Pence does not have a crown on his head as the Queen used to do on the coins. So it seems that the monarchy is dead also. Perhaps so too is the Commonwealth. What do you feel, either from the astrology standpoint of the chart of Canada and maybe of Trudeau, and also you personally, on this idea of not just here in Canada, but let's start with Canada, this idea of reconstituting our nations?
Yeah, so personally, I've had several dreams and visions that Canada will become an independent, free country, similar to the United States, and we will be brothers or sisters in that way. I don't think it's going to take a long time. Astrologically, it's really interesting because in the chart of Canada, I actually have it up here, and maybe I'll send it to you next time we can bring it up. Canada is a Cancer with an Aries rising, okay? And what we've got happening this year is the first eclipse of 2023 on April 20th is happening in Aries at 29 degrees. So that eclipse is a new moon eclipse. So it's new beginnings, activation for the whole world into the Aries archetype of independence and bravery and standing up for ourselves and empowerment, right? And that's going to be majorly activating Canada's rising sign, which is how we show up to the world, how we stand up for ourselves. And also what's really interesting is in 2024, I believe it's April 9th, 2024, which I've told you about this a couple times already. We're going to be having a huge astronomical event, which is the Great North American Eclipse. I'm so excited for this. It's a once in 500 year event. There's going to be an eclipse going right over all of North America.
Mm-hmm.
And the path of visibility, like the path of the places that will have 100% visibility of this eclipse, goes over parts of Mexico, Texas, middle of US, and then right over Ottawa, Toronto, and Montreal. So when we have eclipses, there's a lot to do. I'm excited.
What was the date on that?
That's April 9th, 2024, April 8th or April 9th.
Okay, keep going.
So, yeah. So on March 15th, Julie and I will be doing the Astro Decode on the eclipses coming up, the April-May eclipse season. So we'll talk, all the stuff about eclipses. But one of the things about eclipses, yeah, perfect. This is a picture of it.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things about it is, yeah, we've got the sign that eclipses are in and the degree that they're in, and that's what the whole world is going through, right? But with every eclipse, there's places that are in what we call the path of totality. Okay, this is where the eclipse is actually exactly happening over 100%, and you can experience the eclipse 100%. And these are the places on the planet that are getting hit the most intensely by the eclipses. So April 2024, April 8th, 2024, if we have not already reconstituted, this eclipse is going to spark that for sure.
That, get it started or accelerate.
That is going to get that started, because that eclipse is a new moon eclipse as well, also in Aries. Okay, so we've got a new moon eclipse in Aries this year on April 20th, then that one April 8th. These are bam, bam, both activating Canada's rising sign and happening exactly over our capital, which is independence, empowerment, no longer putting up with bullying in the control systems. Any of you guys who are in Aries, you guys do not put up with bullshit at all. You guys are the fiercest protectors. You guys are totally in the present moment. And you guys are the ones that really stand up for the community naturally. And you're not afraid to say, hey, that's not right. That's not fair.
Yeah.
So that's what Canada is going to be being activated into that. The whole world is being activated into that. But very intensely, Canada and the US over the next 2 years with that great North American eclipse. So yeah, I think it's only a matter of time, and I don't see it taking a long time.
Gisela says, bring it on. And of course, guys, just make sure to check Julie's channel here when she posts her April and May eclipse season. This is going to be on March 15th at 4 p.m. Eastern. I saw another comment that I want to bring up. Lori says, JC, I have visions of these shows as professionally broadcast and prepared, being on a regular TV station, Age of Aquarius. Yeah, JCTV is manifesting soon enough. And of course, the Academy is also, let me take this opportunity to let you guys know, Tarot Level 3 is up now. Guys, go check it out. This is drip content. So Janine has just launched for Valentine's Day the relationship spread, which is one of the most powerful spreads you can have as a tarot reader. So that's out now. And this Tarot Level 3 also includes live workshops with Janine and Julie together. So really having examples, being able to ask questions. Level 3, of course, presumes that you've taken level 1 and 2 to get started here, but go check it out on BeyondMystic Academy. And there's more and more amazing courses and workshops that are coming up as well. I know we're working on quite a few in the background already, and I'm excited to be launching that with you guys very soon. Now, something else I wanted to bring up to your attention, Meg, hold on, where did it go? Okay. So in the WebBot data, I'm going to blow your mind. So you talked about April 9, 2024 as perhaps the day or a trigger date for this reconstitution. Now, in the WebBot data, there was a period of time where Canada was kind of in a no man's land, and where we would be divided east and west, and Ottawa would be a place kind of like a neutral zone where the west and the east would fly in to talk about maybe how to reconstitute Canada. I'm not sure exactly. This was in the older WebBot data, but there was a period of time where we're neither Canada nor anything else. At least that's the way I kind of understood and interpreted what Cliff was putting out, and this is an old, well-updated report that's been filling out for a long time. So that would suggest that something would need to happen earlier in order to perhaps, if this eclipse is the constitution of the new Canada, between. Let me blow your mind.
Okay.
Tomorrow,
Wow.
February 16, is the anniversary of the day Fidel Castro was sworn in as president, Prime Minister of Cuba. Wouldn't it be odd if today or tomorrow around this date here, our Castro would be relieved of his position as prime minister, heading up the
gosh.
Again, this report is coming out tomorrow, and a lot of people in the opposition had said, hey, if you fall on your sword here of the Emergencies Act being overreached, will you resign or will you call a snap election? The NDP seems to be buckling at the knees on that. Mulcair was out in the last 2 months saying maybe we're going to have an election sooner than later, suggesting that maybe the NDP will no longer be the kingmaker to Trudeau's coalition government here. Okay, let's pull some cards here.
Yeah, I'm pulling some cards.
On this interesting date here from 1959 with Mr. Castro Sr.
Wow.
I told you I'd blow your mind.
Yeah, that just blew my mind totally because, as a conspiracy nut, we all know that they do these dates. They do the same things.
Yeah.
Dates, and the dates have meaning in their own weird dark arts way. I just, it's just crazy, right? So so definitely then tomorrow is going to be interesting for sure. So I just pulled cards from the Angel Answers deck.
Okay.
On tomorrow and the news of tomorrow for Canada, what we can expect. This is really interesting. First card is recovery. Okay. So there's going to be some sort of healing that's going to, I think, start tomorrow with the news that comes out. The situation will improve. So whatever the news is, we're on the right trajectory here, whether it's what we want to hear or what we don't want to hear. And this one's interesting. Look for a sign. Okay, this is making me feel like whatever the press conference is, like I'm seeing the press conference or whatever that's going to be, I'm assuming that they're going to do some kind of video announcing it. I'm just making that assumption. I'm getting spirit say, watch that for the sign. There's going to be some sort of sign, some sort of symbology in that everything is okay. We're on the right track here. So let's watch for that, whatever that's going to be.
It'll be interesting to watch.
That's going to be very interesting.
When we saw Trudeau in the press conference about him taking the decision and giving the order to shoot down the unidentified flying objects over Yukon, you could tell that his body language was not necessarily coherent with the words that were coming out of his mouth, at least in my opinion. So it'll be interesting to watch him tomorrow, or whichever version of him they choose to put in front of the camera. There's a few different ones, of course.
People are saying that they're seeing orbs in front of me. I didn't see that. That's interesting.
Cool.
Very cool.
Oh, it was with Janine last night, or maybe today, just before the show we were talking, and there was orbs too on her camera.
Wow.
Yeah, really cool. Yes, orbs around Meg. Cool. I'll have to go back and watch the clip and see if
awesome. I can. I didn't see that. That's
really guys, cool. If you're interested in all of this crazy astrology here and how perhaps that's going to be affecting you, Julie, Janine, and myself are going to be recording this, I believe, next Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern. So if you're on the Insider Access Pass, you can watch us while we're recording this pay-per-view live. And usually within a day, we'll cut up the 12 individual zodiac signs into 12 videos and put those out to the general public on pay-per-view. And of course, we're going to get into how best to navigate the month of March here, because from what we can see, we're having a few tower card moments. We were pulling cards with Janine and Julie last night off screen also, and because we were looking at planning our staff retreat for BeyondMystic, and it was like, whoo, the month of March is definitely going to be exciting. So having a little bit of a heads up on how to manage these energies are going to be beneficial for all of you. So check that out on the Astro Woo next week. Meg, we're 53 minutes in. Was there anything else you wanted to share with the audience members before we go? We'll talk about your booking sections here a little bit later at the end of the show. But is there anything else in the astrology or what's coming up in your bookings with the audience members right now that seems to be a theme coming out that you want to maybe flag to the audience members? What would you like to share?
Yeah, so something that I'm really feeling strongly that we might have talked about on one of the previous Manifest Destinies, and I brought it up in my Beyond Astro weekly forecast this week as well, but I'm feeling it, it's very strong, and I feel that it's very important, is what we're coming into moving forward is there will be people that we never thought would wake up that are going to wake up, okay? Maybe not everybody, maybe not all of our friends and family, but there will be people. And those brothers and sisters of ours are in a very different space than a lot of us in this community are. Okay. They are not aware of a lot of the things we are aware of. First of all, they also, they're holding a lot of embarrassment and shame and anger. We're having a lot of emotions. I pulled this card, Pisces sensitize, which is emotions. We're all having different kind of emotions going on, but I feel like those of us who've gone through those stages of grief, of the awareness of what's going on in the world, you know, and didn't really fall for the mind control that intensely, we have to take the high road. Okay. And this may resonate with some of you, it may not resonate with some of you, but I feel like it would be really positive and supportive for us to be there for those people and to not judge them, to not make them feel bad, to not point fingers and say, screw you, you weren't there for me. You didn't stand up for me when, you know, I couldn't get into a restaurant or I couldn't get on a plane. We'll get there. We'll get there when we can have those conversations with them where we can really like let it out. But we're now in this very sensitive time where we need everybody on board. We need as many people as possible feeling supported and a part of this community. Okay. And I'm just feeling that really strongly, like be open to the people that are around you that you maybe thought never would wake up. Listen to what they're saying. I'm noticing it with people all around me, JC, friends and some family members that are starting to say little things where I'm like, what? That person's talking about, you know, Jeffrey, you know who, and that person's talking about UFOs, and well, that person's asking me about the cleansing protocol for the you know what, like what? Right? So they're embarrassed. Like I really feel that they are embarrassed. A lot of people are waking up and they need our support. So just, you know, if it resonates with you, be there for them
I
and
love
take
it.
the high road.
That's what it's all about, being there and supporting each other. That's why we did that meditation also for Penny Kelly. Just a quick update, guys. Her surgery went well. There's still a couple of tests here to make sure that everything that they needed to take care of the surgery was taken care of. So she's 3 or 4 more days at least here in the hospital, and I'm told maybe 5 to 6 weeks of recovery. So if you haven't seen the meditation video on our YouTube channel with Elena and Julie, go check it out and send Penny some healing energy. And speaking of JCTV, somebody was saying earlier that they see us being in a live broadcast situation. And that's also what Cliff High said, by the way. He told me this a couple of months ago. He said, I think you're one of the only social media personalities that will convert or translate into whatever the hell the new media is going to be once we get through the other side of this. So I'm seeing visions of that. And of course, Julie's on the screen here saying, yeah, I had a vision when we covered the trucker convoy. Let me bring that up. Julie was hosting, anchoring the chair at that time while I was live on the grounds in Ottawa. And she says that we would have one day this big TV studio. So yeah, I think we're very close to manifesting all of that. And as mainstream media is dying, we, the community here, have to manifest the media, the news, the entertainment that better serves us as humans, as opposed to the one that served the perpetuation of the prison matrix that we were living in. Of course, that was mainly their role, believe it or not, as we're all waking up to all of this. Meg, my God, time goes really fast when you are on the show with me. Let's get into this here before we go. For people who want to have a personal reading with you, explain the difference here between the two products that are offered right now on MAISON.com.
Yeah, so currently I'm doing the 1-year personal forecast with astrological transits and the 1.5 hour birth chart astrology reading. So The personal forecast for the upcoming year is looking at how the current astrology, excuse me, is affecting you, which is your birth chart. And that's really good for, you know, if you just want to see what I have to say about that, or if you have any specific questions about the upcoming year, we can focus on specific areas of life. And then for the birth chart astrology reading, that's getting into, you know, understanding the map, the cosmic map of why you've come here, where you're coming from, what you're destined to move towards, the natural energies of you being here, your gifts, your strengths, your challenges. Through the birth chart, we can really see anything. So also through that, you know, if you have big questions about life, we can look at that with the birth chart as well. That's really understanding, okay, who am I? Why am I here? Where am I coming from? What should I be focusing on?
Meg, for a lot of people, 2023 and perhaps the beginning of 2024 will be for them a moment of self-actualization. They're going to be going from the trauma of the last couple of years, the healing from that, and then the rebooting, bringing their knowledge, their information from the old world into this new world of Aquarius. And so for some people, that will be creating a business, leaving a job, getting into a new job, new profession, and all that. How does knowing the astrological transits per se help you? For example, if you're going to be writing a book, or if you're going to be starting a business, how does that particular package, in terms of the alignments, really help you focus and how to map here what it is you're supposed to do with your North Node of your incarnation here?
Yeah. Well, you know, the astrology is the natural time, and astrology is the observation of the natural time and nature. And at the moment we were born, you know, the planets were in a certain place. And as that Hermetic principle says, as above, so below, right? We are connected to the cosmos. We are connected to the stars. And the stars help to guide us as to why we're here. So astrology is the natural energy, the natural time. And when we look at our birth chart, that shows our natural energy of why we've come here, what we should be focusing on. And the transit reading in particular is kind of like our current weather forecast,
right,
if you will, showing the areas that are really lit up, the areas that are not so lit up. So it's really just being in alignment with the natural energy and time.
And shall I say, to even harness that energy. So for example, if you would have energy into creation and to writing a book, you want to be focusing that energy and sitting atop or harnessing or put a harness on that natural universal energy here to maybe maximize your efforts and your potential for success, basically, I think.
Yeah, totally.
Really cool. Okay. Tanya says, thank you so much for being you, Jean-Claude. Bon, merci beaucoup. J'apprécie ça. I can't be anybody else. Everybody else is taken. I forgot which guru told me that. I thought it was absolutely funny. Genovati? I'm not sure how to pronounce that, but thank you so much. He says, thank you, Meg and JC, for these important conversations and sending much love. And Lori Ann says, JC, you've been at the alternative news for 2+ years now. The world needs to see what we have seen. And yes, your cat just agreed.
Do you want to say hi?
Right on cue.
Say hi. Yeah, he's Siamese, so he likes to make noises. Say hi. He's very magical. Look at the camera.
Isn't that perfectly right on cue?
Yeah, he's tired.
All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us here tonight. Of course, this was where did I find that thing? I don't know. It's been a long day. Yes, this was, I think, our third or fourth already. Man, time flies. Manifest a Destiny show.
Yeah.
Please join us in another couple of weeks. I'll put another one up on the board for you guys. Really happy for that. And tomorrow, check my YouTube channel. We might have an emergency impromptu show. There's a lot happening in the world of silver and the financial world also here, as it ties into the destruction of these old structures around the planet. So stay tuned. Just watch my Twitter. I might be having another show again here tomorrow. I'm Jean-Claude at BeyondMystic. Say hello and give Meg a lot of love in the chat here below in the comments section. Let us know how we did and what topics you might want us to cover in our next videos. Have a great evening, everyone. I love you, and we'll see you soon. Au revoir.
Bye, everyone. Love you.